Hello everyone, I'm Charlie, and welcome back to another DraftKings DFS slate preview. Back on this Wednesday slate here. Once again, a three-gamer because they're leaving off the late game, which keeps it from being staggered. They did that on Tuesday, and I love they're continuing. And yeah, I'm super excited for it. In terms of the games and set pieces themselves, it's Newcastle Wolves. It should be Gordon and Lewis Hall. Trippier and Target ended up being the split last game, but that was just because there was rotation because of FA Cup. These are the normal guys. This is Newcastle's best team. I know Ishak was like completely left out in that FA Cup game with a potential knock, so that's one thing to keep an eye on. I think he's questionable going into this one. I think he'll probably start though, and with him in, like he's just their main man. And then there's also a small chance that like Tonali or Guimaraes ends up taking one or two one-offs though, but not that likely. And then for Wolves, interestingly enough, they don't have Cunha in projected. I don't really get why. He's just finished serving his three-game suspension, and I don't see any reason why they would just slot him straight back into the lineup. It's strange that they don't have him in. With him in, it would be an 8 Nori and Cunha split. If this lineup is somehow right, I expect it to be 8 Nori, maybe like Geddes. Tommy Doyle, if he starts, would be the guy splitting for sure, but he's not projected either. So we'll see. I really feel confident that Cunha will start though. Everton and Aston Villa for Everton. Who really knows right now? It's going to be David Moyes' first game. When it was Leighton Baines and Seamus Coleman, like interiming, I think that's the right word, interiming. Uh, in the FA Cup, it was like Gay and like who else took? I think Patterson and then Harrison, I think, took one off the bench. So it's really weird. Like it doesn't even really matter because Moyes is going to do his own thing anyway. So who knows? If I was doing it, I'd underline Gay, underline and die, underline Harrison, underline Ashley Young, which just means all of them could potentially take. And then for Aston Villa, should be Tielemans and Digne mostly, although Bailey also has taken a couple as well recently. Leicester and Crystal Palace. They haven't got a ton of corners. That's the issue with there. It should be a Christensen and then either like an IU and El Canu split. They get like one corner a game, and IU has taken one like back to back to back. But El Canus gets subbed early, so there's that to factor in too. So who really knows? I feel like IU, like I think what I remember from last game, like El Canus took like a crossing free kick, then IU took a corner. So it's just weird, even if they did get a ton of sets. And then for Palace, it should mostly be Eze, and they're pretty simple in that way. In terms of prices, Ishak, most expensive, 10,800, like minus 150 goal odds. He's super tempting. I don't think there's a hotter player in the league right now. Even scored in EFL Cup too. Look at that. How many games straight has he scored? That's crazy. He's been so solid with the best matchup on the slate with Newcastle sitting at minus two. What are they? Minus 278. It's a super tempting play. Same with Gordon, who is getting priced up a decent amount, though. I don't think he's even been this much all year. Oh, he was once against Brighton and was still solid, to be fair. But he's been super great. Like, he doesn't even rely mostly on set pieces for his points. He takes a ton of shots, it's a ton of tackles, fouls drawn. He just gets points and finds his way there with his upside that he's showing too. When he went like you come like because him and Ishak are just combining so well, it's super tempting just to like play them both in cash and build around that. I think it's a super valid option for sure. Gordon's the safer cash play if only playing one of those guys is because he's slightly cheaper and has the floor, whereas Ishak will be kind of that upside play, which is good if he's going to score every game, but if he doesn't, he's getting what 3 or 5 points. But of course, you're playing him for that goal. Just the good thing about Gordon is he can get there even without getting that goal contribution. Although he hasn't had that great of a floor, to be fair to him. But it's better than Ishak's. Then Cunha. He's been good too. The issue is that he's now splitting with 8 Nori, so that's the drawback there, whereas he used to have a monopoly. And he's got a tough matchup away at Newcastle. But like it's hard to dissuade anybody from playing him just because he's another guy similar to Ishak, similar to Gordon, just on fantastic form. We'll see if that layoff maybe dulls him a little bit, maybe not quite as sharp. But I think you can really make an argument to go any combo of Ishak, Gordon, Cunha. Likely Gordon first, then the debate between Ishak and Cunha. But all three of those guys are just great plays. And that makes like these other payups like not quite as tempting. Watkins has been out of form. Rogers just seems like he's too expensive. Star's okay, but once again, I just wouldn't go him over Gordon, Ishak, or Cunha. And Ja, if you want to gamble whether he has sets or not, sure. Jack Harrison, I don't mind at 5,200. You could get me behind that. And then Jordan Ayew. Like if there's no El Canus, it makes him super, super tempting just because he'd have guaranteed sets likely in that scenario. He might even have them with El Canus in, and he just had a super solid floor. Like if you remember for Crystal Palace, he just get a ton of crosses, tons of foul draws. I just kind of bring that back to Leicester now that he's getting some consistent playing time. Like he's got a solid floor to him. This is a super tempting play at 4K. Like if you need a value forward, that's probably who I'd go. I think he's kind of the standout there. So I'm kind of between like going super pay ups or super punt at IU. Who's the forwards? Midfielders, Eze is probably the best play on the slate just because he's got a minus odd matchup. He's been super solid with Will Hughes not in projected and Adam Warden injured. He has a strong chance at Monopoly. If Will Hughes starts, he'll probably end up splitting. But even then, he's just so solid that I just probably play him anyway. At 9K, he's cheaper than your Eshak and your Gordon. And there's a lot less mids than forwards. So give me all the Eze. That's probably the best play on the slate. Then other guys I'm thinking about Tielemans, I don't love for that much. Same with Guimaraes. Buonanotte if he started would be kind of tempting. Sarabia if he started would be kind of tempting. Lindstrom would be kind of tempting. But then like Konali feels like a little expensive to what he's been. He's been like 3 or 4K, now he's 5. Bailey at 5K, I don't mind. If Dinier ends up getting like rested by some miracle, Bailey would be more likely to have sets in that scenario, and I'd like him a lot then. At 5K, just being a cheap attacker is not bad either, though. Kamada, if they somehow rest Eze, would be okay. Doyle, if there's no Cunha, potentially. But like I said, there's not a ton of mids I really love. It's really just Eze, and then maybe you can go like an El Canus at 3K. Even if he doesn't take, he was super solid in the FA Cup with like 2 assists, I think. And even if he doesn't have set pieces, he's a number 10 for 3K. So it's just not that bad of an option. You gamble on him maybe taking potentially two. And like I said, there's just not a ton of great mids, which makes me more inclined to go to like an El Canus, especially because it allows me to go up to your Cunhas, your Ishaks, your Gordons. So that might be the value play there in midfield. Defenders, there's a lot of pretty decent set piece taking defenders. The problem is that they're not really cheap. Like Lewis Hall, T700 feels a little steep. He doesn't have a ton of upside to him typically, and he's got a lot of clean sheets in here that inflate his points slightly as well. Like these would all be 6, 7, 8s rather than 9, 10, 11s. Got that assist against Leicester to get to that big score there, but that was pretty rare for him. He's usually more of like a 6 to 10 point guy, which at 6,700 doesn't feel great. Digne, he's kind of similar to Lewis Hall, maybe a little bit more upside to him. But the issue with him is that Villa regularly kind of mix up their sets. Like they'll play a lot short. They'll sometimes give some to Bailey, which makes them a little bit unpredictable in that sense. It's not like Newcastle where it's largely a straight split. And he doesn't have as good of a matchup either. So because of that, like I don't love either of those guys. I'd be fine if you want to cram them. Then you got like 8 Nori, another set piece taking defender. The issue there is that's a tougher matchup. Trippier probably won't start. Christensen, another potential set piece taker, but another tough matchup and just on a bad team. So it's hard to see him bombing up the pitch like you'd like from your fullbacks. So it's a kind of hard defender side. It's not a true lock, really. I don't really want to commit to any of those guys. Like I could see myself playing any of them, but it just depends how the rest of the build ends up shaking after lineups. And in terms of like budget defenders, I don't mind a James Justin. If Patterson starts, not that Patterson. Where's the other Patterson? If Nathan Patterson starts, I'd love that at 2,700. I doubt like he plays though. And then like Luke Thomas, if he starts, that'd be a lot better than Christensen just because he's that so cheap. And then you're kind of in the center back punts. Like there's not a ton of great value. Like in terms of cheap fullbacks, most of these guys aren't likely to start even. So that's the argument for paying up. In terms of a mid-range, you got like Livramento. None of these guys are super, super appealing. That makes it a pretty tough defender slate. Goalkeepers, as always, crapshoot. Who was the highest for Tuesday? I want to say Travers, Justin Floor. Just a crapshoot. There was no clean sheets either, which makes it a little different too. So as always, I just say play whoever you land on for a goalkeeper. Always prioritize your mids, defenders, forwards over getting a premium goalkeeper. If there's like a value you want to play in those positions, then by all means, if you land on a more expensive goalkeeper that way, go for it. But as always, not a ton in it. And as for a core, Eze, then I'm going Gordon. And now it's a little tough. I could be swayed to just go an El Canus for 3K. That allows you a lot more freedom to get up at different positions. I think I'd probably do that. I hope Ayu doesn't play in that case because then I'd like El Canus for sure. If Ayu starts, it becomes a little dicey, but I likely just go El Canus anyway, just for that price and just the lack of good mid options. But yeah, guys, that'll be it. Good luck, and I'll see you for the next one.